You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
Well, a lot's been going on here. I've been talking now for 3.5 hours, so I still have some voice left, which is impressive, but I probably should conserve some of it for the rest of the week. So unless we have some big developments in the next few minutes, I'm going to go around the horn and give everyone a chance. Doesn't sound like we're going to be able to get Mr. Rhoads back. His technical issues were overwhelming. So unfortunately, we saved him till the end, and we couldn't get him on after all. Maybe we'll have another chat with him later on this week. But I'm going to go around the horn and check in with everybody, have them give our audience maybe some final thoughts on what you're seeing out there. Actually, right now, the S&P future is still at about 30, north 3,400, about 34, 13 or so, up right around 52 or so handles out there. So obviously, still feeling a little bit of the north. Let's go out really quickly, check those betting sites. They have come off a little bit. They spiked a little bit north of 80, about 81, almost 82. Now they're down to about 71. So whatever drove that spike up in some of these betting sites seems like it's mitigating a little bit out there. But I'm going around the horn with everyone. Let's start with you, Luke. Anything you want to leave our audience with? By the way, if you're listening live, you want to get some questions in, we're going to wrap it up soon, so now is the time. A lot of you guys have been asking great questions. We appreciate it. You've been voting in our polls. I'll give one final check-in of our poll here as well, because you guys have been voting hot and heavy here. All right, we got people actually chime in with more questions, just as I'm trying to wrap it up. How nice I am. But let's go to the poll really quickly here. Let's start. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. It's still remarkably split, even with this recent resurgence out there, not really changing the numbers. We asked you think we'll have a clear victor tonight, yes or no? Yes, definitely 46.8% as of right now. No, it will take days, 45.5%. And I don't know, about 7.8% out there. Now we're getting people flooding us with more stuff out here. All right, I'll be a charitable guy. I'll give you guys a chance to ask a couple more questions out here. We got EVS chiming in, says he applauds our effort to not have an election-related post here. Yeah, well, we try. We try to cut it down the middle. We're just talking about returns and results and what's going on in the market. No, it's good, it's bad, or anyone else out here. We got Make a Difference. I like that handle, Make a Difference. It's important on a day like today to make a difference. He wants to know, are credit put and call spreads better to sell with elevated implied volatility? I like to do put credit spreads on big down days with elevated VIX. Good play, or is there a better option play? Let's go around the horn. Since, Dan, you were just chatting, let's start with you, sir. Are you a fan of selling credit put and call spreads with elevated IV, or do you prefer something else, sir? Oh, that was extremely lucid there. That was very witty in the
He muted himself again.
Once again. Dan, are you there? Going once. There we go.
Geez.
Getting past your bedtime, sir, down there in the hinterlands.
Yeah, I mean, I am a fan of selling puts when IV is elevated on stocks that I want to own long term. And there are definitely some situations right now where that's a possibility. So yeah, I mean, just in general, like I see high implied volatility. So, hey, I'm going to sell puts is a little bit crazy, like I don't sell puts when IV is high just to harvest premium. I sell puts when IV is high so that I can, if I do get a sign, pick up the stock at what I consider a bargain.
All right, let's see now. If I'm going to give it one more college try through the magic of technology, can we welcome on once again the once and future Dr. VIX? Mr. Rhoads, are you there?
Yeah, I was explaining the betting markets to all the women that live in my household, and when they understood that Trump's going to win this thing, I basically had to talk him off the ledge for a few minutes there.
Well, there you go.
I'm good now.
There you go.
You should see the look. You should see the look that I'm getting from my producer right now.
Well, it wouldn't be an election night special without giving you a chance to hold court a little bit on all things volatility, sir. So have at it. The floor is yours.
Fired up. 4 years later, first off, everybody keeps talking about so excited to finally be on the election night special. Dude, we were the election night special. Just by chance. We're kind of hanging out, and you're like, hey, why don't you come on real quick? Next thing you know, we're talking for 15 minutes about what's going on, and it morphed into all of this. And when you got me on before, the S&Ps went to the limit down, and VIX kept trading because they decided not to put in the circuit breaker on VIX that night. And lo and behold, Donald Trump became president. Now it looks like the stock market's going up because of this, and the Chinese yuan is crashing, which is other indicator.
They are absolutely destroying the yuan. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
And Russell, I got to say that piece of radio podcasting is some of the best that's ever been put out there post-election, because you guys were so on top of what was going on, and it was awesome. Because I remember that was just, I was sitting there looking at my phone, giggling as things were going on, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And here we are, and like I said, the market wanted an outcome. And so, Russell, I put this to the audience, and I would love your opinion. If we have an outcome tomorrow, where does that put the VIX at the close of business tomorrow?
I'm going to go lower than Andrew. I actually think you're going to see a crush to the low 20s.
Yep. That was where I was at. And
somebody that I was listening earlier, and I forgot who pointed out that the at-the-money straddle crushed as the day went along. Now, I doubt that was anybody predicting that Trump might win this thing. I'm still going to say might win this thing. I think he's going to win this thing. In fact, I'm starting to wish that I'd taken the $500 bet that we get a concession speech. It may actually happen.
Dan, you're still there. Dan, you want to open up that offer to Mr. Rhoads still? Are you still there?
Hey, man, we still have 2 hours and 26 minutes. I'm in, baby. Let's do it. Let's get some action.
I'm not taking it, but I will say that it's a lot more attractive right now than it was when you first mentioned it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's still not a good bet on if you're taking Biden's going to wake up and come concede, within the next 225 or 220, whatever, 226.
He's only filled on $1. He still has $499 left, Mr. Rhoads. If you are so inclined.
I heard. I don't know if higher education is going to be around a year from now, so I can't do anything but the sure bet.
You got to be judicious. Well, if no one's taking his bet, Mr. P has to go handle some of his mentees. But before you go, Mr. P, if you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom on this tumultuous night for our listeners, sir, have at it.
Well, this is it's an exciting night for traders and investors alike, and holy cow, any American citizen. And so let's keep an eye on this and let's watch it. Let's as traders, let's not think about the emotional or political aspects and look for some great opportunities. And we'll see you in the morning.
We will see you in the morning. That's the good takeaway. The country will still be here, hopefully, if the bridge is going up and all the other precautions they're taking here in downtown Chicago aren't a sign of things to come. Let's hope that they are not. I hope that calmer and cooler and saner heads will prevail. But Mr. Rhoads, you talked about you're hanging out in academia there these days, engaging with the students out there. Any interesting queries? What do they want to know about heading into this election? And are they intrigued about all things volatility and everything else? Or are you still stuck teaching antiquated concepts like CAP-M, sir?
Yeah, well, some of them I have to subject to a little bit of CAP-M and things like that. But there's always one or two students that get all fired up about VIX, and that's just what keeps me going. I haven't gotten to the VIX section of the derivatives class yet. It's the last thing we do. We'll see how glossy-eyed the people get on that one. I did make them read my recap of what happened 4 years ago, and I did tell them that the morning after, when I went and had to teach class, it was like all the students' puppies had gotten run over by cars on the way to school. I felt like I was talking them off the ledge too. So luckily, I canceled all my classes tomorrow and moved it to Friday.
And my little guy was asking me, he was saying, why don't we have, election day off here? And I was like, you know what? We probably should. That probably is a good message to send to the electorate. Take the day off, go vote, bring your kids, show them how the electoral process works. Maybe if I was sitting in the big chair, I would make that one a holiday out there. Speaking of sitting in big chairs, Uncle Mike's sitting in one. He's got to get up early to roll all your puts over there at St. Charles Wealth Management. He's got to get up with the futures and with the birds over there. So before he goes, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if you ever want to leave our audience with any words of wisdom, you're always usually my go-to ray of sunshine out there. Maybe any dash of optimism as well. Have at it, sir. Oh, that mute button. It's getting infectious out there.
I'll bet he was muted, and it was prophetic.
I think it was very profound. All right. A lot of good stuff popping off on here as we're getting into. Let's see. Let's look where we are right now. Let's see if we have any updates going on. No polls, I don't believe, closing at this point. I think most of the big ones have. Let's see, the next ones close at 10 p.m. Central, and that would be California, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. California, obviously, the biggest prize there with 55 electoral votes over there, and they're obviously in the midst. I don't think it's going to be a fight for California, but you never know. If Texas is in play, then who knows what the heck's going to happen out there today. Let's go back around the horn again. Mr. Luke, you've been charitable enough to give us some time here on the old special. If you want to leave our audience with any final interesting words of wit and or wisdom, or perhaps just what's catching your eye right now out there in the market, sir, have at it. The floor is yours.
What's catching my eye is how much these markets are moving, but there's still a lot of problems out there. I just don't know if I really believe this rally for the long term. And I think no matter who comes into the White House, there's some industries that can go one way or another, and then there's some industries or asset classes or countries that are probably going to benefit no matter what. And I think you got to look at India as one. India, although it can't do it fully, will probably replace China in some of the manufacturing, some of that stuff. So market to look out for. And what I'm going to be looking for tomorrow is how my VIX spread is going to be doing. I'm going to take a look at how much the out months are going to go down in relation to the front month. And that will kind of tell you how people are looking at risk, not just for the next week or next 2 weeks, but next year and maybe all the way out to March. So that's the stuff I'm going to look at. And just to make sure that we don't have a winner tonight, while I was on mute, I filed my own lawsuit in about 5 or 6 states. So hopefully that'll hold things up till tomorrow morning or later. So
there you go. You should have taken the other side of Dan's bet. You could have then stepped in and you would have hedged it with your lawsuits. You would have been good.
Exactly.
Always a good trade. Always an idea for a trade.
Well, I appreciate you joining us, Mr. Luke. Check them out over there at Equity Armor Advisors. If you want to reach out, maybe you have questions about, putting on some puts in markets like this. Who could really blame you out there? Hit them up over there as well. And Eric, same question for you, sir. Any interesting final thoughts or nuggets or analysis you want to leave our audience with here on our election night special, hour 3.5 and ticking?
Much appreciated, Mark. I think there's a consensus view here that with clarity there will be a vacuum underneath the VIX futures tomorrow, and I think you'll see that transpire into all equity options. I think Luke just hit the nail on the head. Markets potentially could overshoot here, and the macro backdrop is not changing. The economy fundamentally hasn't changed overnight. COVID clearly is not going to evaporate overnight, so there's still a lot of macro risks to evaluate. If volatility gets sucked out too much, the ability to purchase puts will become a lot more attractive. And so, all stewards of capital, just be nimble and be cognizant of those things. The election is one data point. They've come and gone in the past, and this will be no different. Market price discovery will happen in the next couple of days or weeks. But I think the clarity is what the market needs, and if it overshoots, be prepared to make opportunistic plays accordingly.
Thank you for that, sir. Thank you for joining us on our election night special. And if folks are intrigued, they want to learn more about what you guys are up to over there at Spider Rock, maybe reach out to you. Again, these are troubled times. Folks might want to talk about hedging or diversification or all that fun stuff. Where should they go? What should they do, Eric?
Sure, Mark. And once again, appreciate coming on the show here. www.spiderrockadvisors.com is the website. You can gather anything you need there, and somebody from our team will be in contact.
There you go. Spider Rock Advisors is the place to go there as we keep on rolling here to a somewhat of conclusion here with our long-running 3.5 hours and counting. I can't believe I still have a voice, but I do here on the old election night special. Let's go back around the horn. Mr. Rhoads, like I said, you've been preparing for this for a while. You're my go-to for all sorts of historical analysis on all things of volatility. Any interesting historical corollaries or comparisons or nuggets come across your radar as you were analyzing tonight and comparing it back to 2016, sir?
Well, not necessarily comparing back to 2016, but I'm amazed anybody held November 4th weekly VIX future position at all. It was at a slight discount to spot VIX. It'll probably settle much lower than where it went out at the end of the regular session today. But goodness gracious, that the risk behind that thing just in either direction absolutely blew my mind. The other thing is just taking a look at how we traded last time and how we're trading this time. I love that the Chinese yuan is crashing because China suddenly realizes they're going to have to deal with Trump for 4 more years. And I heard other commentary where the feeling was if the NASDAQ or tech is outperforming, that's good for Trump. If maybe the S&P 500 futures are outperforming tonight, maybe that's more of a Biden thing because he's more of a globalist, I guess. And that's exactly what's been going on. The NASDAQ futures are up a lot more than the S&P futures from what I saw.
Russell, let's think about this. The 35 straddle expiring tomorrow in VIX was, it was wide, but you're looking at, call it, the calls were about $1.40 and the puts were $2.20. You're at $3.60 straddle. Do you think that's a winner or a loser?
I think if you bought it, it's looking like a winner right now.
Yeah,
I would not have bought that. And the reason I wouldn't have bought it was my best guess. I always thought Biden was going to win this thing. I really did. And I'm going to have a lot of mud on my face in front of a few people for this one, including all 150 students that have at Loyola. So much for me moving over into, another area there. My guess I would have been more of a seller than a buyer of that one. And it's because I would have felt like we're going to have uncertainty, not violent uncertainty, but just uncertainty as to who the winner is. So the market wouldn't know what to do. That's really that. If somebody had put a gun to my head and said, you've got to do something with those November 4th contracts, that's how I would have played it. Just something somewhat neutral, which is probably going to be wrong.
Mr. Meatball, same question for you, sir, or a similar question. Any interesting nuggets on your radar? Any interesting discussion topics we haven't had a chance to get to yet on our epic 3.5 hour spectacular that you think we should parse here in the final minutes of our spectacular, sir?
Well, again, I would point out the fact that the VIX was positioned for volatility to fall off, and it appears like it's going to. One thing I would say was the S&P straddle that expires tomorrow afternoon was trading at about 85 handles. And that appears that it's going to be somewhat fairly priced, maybe, depending on what we do tomorrow, during the trading day. So markets had this thing somewhat fairly priced, I would say. And, that would be here'd be my big words of wisdom is if you're planning on buying or selling because of the winter tomorrow, you are wrong. Who wins the president does not really matter to the stock market. We go up if it's a Democrat. We go up if it's a Republican. So don't judge your portfolio based on who won tomorrow morning.
No, and I think there are bigger issues in the world.
Agreed.
But we still haven't solved the COVID thing, and it looks like we're going to have a protracted trade war with China. And I don't even want to try to guess how that could turn out, but I can come up with a lot of ways that it's not going to be good. Because there is a lot of, we're all financially intertwined to a point where something really bad to them might be really bad for us as well.
So. Russell, how would you structure a trade if you had to put on a trade for the next year? What trade would you structure?
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, I know I'm throwing you under the bus.
I
think that people want to know this. If you had to structure a trade, what would you do?
The structured products that they have out there now, where you get 10% upside and anything, and then you get a little buffer if it's down any more than 5%, but any less than 15%. Something where you're basically selling a put spread and buying maybe an out-of-the-money call option and taking in a credit for it, or something like that with SPX options that expire at the end of next year. But something that you structure a 10% return and a buffer around some of the downside. Because I don't see us putting up a 20-30% year next year. I can't really come up with a reason that the stock market would actually come under pressure.
I like that trade. I like that trade a lot.
Something that's somewhat neutral, has some upside, but is hedged against some downside just in case things don't go well next year.
So you would be kind of like borderline, like long the market, short a little vol. Basically, is the way you would. I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
plus
300%.
Yeah, I'd end up short vol doing that, but I'd also wouldn't mind giving up some of the upside and taking in a credit for that. I might even sell calls against the position throughout the year or something along those lines. You're going to keep me up all night, Mark.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Andrew and I, our trade was if we have a contested election, the trade we were going to absolutely slap on for December the back spread for a credit. And I don't think we're going to get an opportunity to put that on.
I don't think it. What's really funny is there's three scenarios that you could have tried to play out. Trump winning this thing, it being contested, or Biden winning this thing. And I think if you had to put odds on all three of them, you probably would have said 10% Trump wins it, or at least I would have. I'm starting to hear from a lot of people that said, "Well, I always knew he might win this thing."
You know what? It's very Johnny come
I've heard that from a few people already.
You put your leg out there. At least you were willing to do that. I give you props for that.
Yeah. Well. Oh well. That's why I'm in the finance department, not in like poli-sci or something like that. Because I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm guessing you're going to have a lot of, if these results hold true, might have a lot of disappointed folks over there the academia tends to swing a certain ways, particularly the student body. So let's see if these numbers hold true or if we get some other changes later on the night. Unfortunately, listeners, that music, that little bit of Hail to the Chief means we've come to the end of our epic, coming up, almost 4-hour extravaganza. I'm amazed I still have a voice. We probably could keep going. There's more stuff to talk about here, but I do want to keep some voice for the rest of the week. I do want to thank all of you out there who joined us. I see more people joining us as we're winding down. I do appreciate all of you out there. We'll try to cut all this up. If you missed some segments of it, we'll cut it up into nice, easily digestible chunks here on the show, maybe nice half-hour snippets. You guys can tune in at your leisure on the podcast over there, give you some nice listening, and we'll, of course, stay glued to the results throughout the rest of the night. Maybe some interesting breaking things will happen, and we'll be sure to tweet about it, talk about it on the network coming up this week. But again, I want to thank all of you out there for joining us here. You guys are the best. You are the reason that we do this. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We have the nicest, the most polite, the most engaged audience out there on the planet. I wouldn't trade any of you guys for any other audience out there. You are the best. But before we go, let's go back around the horn one last time. Let's start with the Russellist of Rhoads, a.k.a. the once and future Dr. VIX. Mr. Rhoads, if you want to check out, or you want to have our audience check out, any maybe your new book with a cool little plug on the back jacket, I kind of like that one, or perhaps any of your research, or maybe I'll leave them with an interesting nugget or fact. Have at it, sir. The floor is yours.
Interesting nugget or fact. I switched to the Libertarian Party 6 weeks ago. There's a nugget or fact. As far as the markets go, before today, I would not have predicted that we dip below 20 by the end of the year on VIX. I bet you we dip below 20 by the end of the year on VIX. And we have seen a lot of big put sellers out there that we're looking at like the December and January expirations. And I think a lot of people were like, what the hell are they thinking? They were thinking good.
And if folks want to check out your books or your research or anything else, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got all opinionated there. EQ Derivatives, .com, anything I write is in front of the paywall. And then I did just in time for volatility crushing in the election, the VIX Trader's Handbook. You can find that on Amazon.
All right. And Mr. Meatball, who seems to have a confusion as to who is the mark on this network. Mr. Meatball, sir, if you want to leave our audience with any final nuggets or pearls of wisdom, now is the time, sir. The floor is yours.
I'll say that Russell pointed out some giant 1x2 traders a couple of weeks ago. I think they're going to be very happy. And I think they're going to be happy traders. Again, don't make an investment decision based on a political party. And if you want to learn more about what I do, come to optionpit.com. I put out I put out a daily note on what I see going on in the markets every day. All you have to do is sign up for our email list, and you'll get it, and you will be happy for it because I'm going to give you the kind of information that helps you navigate what we're seeing tonight.
There you go. Check them out. OptionPit.com. I'll do a quick last final check-in on our poll here, and it's still pretty split if we're going to have a result tonight or not. 46.8% saying yes, 44.3% saying no, and almost 9%, 8.9% saying you don't know. And I want to thank everybody who took time out to join us here on our election spectaculars. We got the Greasy Meatball, we got Dr. VIX, we've got the Oracle of New Hampshire, we got the Rock Lobster, the Flow Master, Eric from Spider Rock, we've got Luke from Equity Armor, Mr. P, a.k.a. the black-hatted one from MTM, the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike, Tusaw, and of course we have the Director of Risk over there in the land of Swamp. Hope I didn't forget anybody. If I did, I apologize. I've been talking for quite some time. And of course, I want to thank all of you out there. I see a lot of new names and a lot of new handles out there in our chat and on social media. If you are new to what we do this all week long. Maybe not this epic of a level, but we do shows all week long. You can always get them live here on the Mixler or after the fact on our podcast network. You know where to go for that. Just subscribe to us on wherever you get your finer podcast programs. Could be Apple, could be Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music. We're on all of them. Of course, you can grab our app as well. That has everything going back 13 plus years. So if you really want a repository of options info all in one place, that's the place to go. Grab our app, type a search keyword in, and have at it until your heart's content. You guys are the best. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you back here tomorrow. More content coming at you. We got Options Bootcamp tomorrow and Options Playbook Radio. Then back again on Thursday with another episode of the old Option Block and TWIFO. And then Friday with Volatility Views. We'll break down all this action in a lot more detail coming up this week. So we'll see you back here for those shows. And stay safe out there. Thanks for joining us.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.